hearty good morning, good afternoon and good evening. Whatever it may be for you, I hope you're having a flippin' fantastic day. So there's something that's on my mind, and this is really something that I believe is quite important to recognize. It's based around what empathy truly is, and I think that the word has really been thrown out there so frequently. You know, people like Gary Vee, he says that he has a lot of empathy and that, you know, that's one of the greatest characteristics that you can have. And I really think that empathy in itself it's a little bit of a loose term that so often is actually misinterpreted. And yes, there's always going to be an interpretation, which is great. It's always subjective. People are able to kind of have their own opinions on what it means, but I think that it's just a base, and there's subcategories from that that really can be pretty important to recognize. But what empathy truly is more than anything understanding another person's perspective. That's the basis of it. That's really, you know, what empathy actually is. And I don't think that that really is understood, because people often, you know, kind of don't balance it between sympathy and empathy. You know, empathy is not sympathy. Empathy is not just saying, oh, you know, I feel for you, or you kind of say these things that are like expressing that you feel for somebody, but empathy is actually the act of it. It's the act of putting yourself in that situation. And why this is actually important is I really think that when it comes down to it, in almost all relationships, no matter what it may be, being able to actually have that genuine empathy, and, you know, yes, empathy, when it's embedded within you, when it is a characteristic that you have within you, that's a very powerful thing, and it's something that you've really got to embrace and recognize within yourself, and I guess utilize that as well. But it is also something that can be introduced and implemented so that you're able to actually build stronger relationships. And, you know, whether it be empathic listening, you know, being able to simply recognize what somebody is saying and then put yourself into that place. What it really is just taking away all the layers of where you are and acknowledging that, you know, you've got to be in a place of understanding. And this probably, if you've read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, this probably sounds very familiar to you. And, you know, this is my interpretation of it. I'm not going to lie, it may sound like a regurgitation of information, but it's really something that I think is more so, when recognized, really quite powerful. And I'm currently, you know, I'm almost finished that book. It's been an incredible read. If you haven't read it, I really do recommend it. It's based on principles. It's based on, you know, aligning your values, aligning your morals, but more than anything, having these principles in place so that when you go out into, you know, whatever field it may be or whatever it is that you do, you know, you're able to implement all the things that are based within those principles. And it's these kind of things that really ground you more than anything, and they don't change. But I really think that, you know, when I was reading the aspect of empathic listening and understanding those kinds of things, there was that kind of thought that came up, and I kind of recognized that there is a bit of a misconception within what empathy is, but also this misunderstanding and people associating that strongly with sympathy. But being able to actually put that in place in all of your relationships, no matter what it may be, and really stripping yourself back and allowing, you know, your personal prejudice opinions to be taken away, and more than anything, being able to actually listen to what people have to say and giving them a place to actually, you know, put forward what it is. But the most important part of this is being genuinely interested. That's again another key factor within the book that has been provided, but it's incredibly important. It's genuine interest. If it's inauthentic, you know, don't put it forward. It's got to be genuine. And when you actually have that genuine interest and you're genuinely interested in people, it becomes much easier to actually incorporate that empathic aspect within your relationships and the way that you actually kind of present yourself. But hello? That's not good. Too good. Far too good. Oh, classic. I really believe that when you have that foundational base in place, it does offer you so much more. And I think that that is also a barrier for a lot of people. It's something that can be difficult to actually overcome, and really to actually, you know, take yourself away from your own opinions. That's really, really vital. It truly is. You know, don't just be putting forward everything. Don't just be dictating. Don't just be, you know, presenting your opinions. Genuinely be able to listen and understand. Be interested in understanding people's perspectives. I personally, you know, this really resonated with me because I love learning and I love being able to kind of know what people are going through. With what I have been doing within my business, I've gotten into this zone where I haven't always been aware of that, and I haven't been aware of how I've actually represented it. I haven't been aware of how I'm representing myself, and you know, that's something that I really had to come to terms with within, you know, my approach, and I had to take a step back, and I really had to think, you know, this is how I have been doing things, but if I want to actually, you know, not only improve but really be able to actually seek solutions, I've got to understand, you know, people's perspective. I've got to really recognize what it is that I'm able to actually offer by listening to what the perspective truly is and putting myself into their shoes, recognizing how I can present myself so it's going to be the most effective presentation, but more than anything, so that they're really able to actually genuinely connect with me and what it is that I'm offering. Because that's something that so frequently, when misinterpreted or not recognized, that just eliminates all the potential of a genuine engagement, because you're not giving people the time to actually, you know, express themselves. And you know, you can probably tell, like with what I'm doing here, people love to express themselves. Sure, some may more than others, but it's allowing people to have that opportunity to find somebody who is genuinely interested in them and what they are actually after, and then finding something that's going to be, you know, mutually beneficial. Recognizing that you've got to be able to, you know, put forward more than anything, you know, in my circumstance, in regards to any business circumstance, you've got to provide something that's going to be really advantageous for both parties, you know, and that's incredibly, incredibly important. It's something that I've really, you know, always had embedded within myself, but it's important to recognize that so that you can revise your approach and then really foundationalize it, so that that is actually represented in all the different circumstances and all the different kind of, you know, consultations that come up in the future, because it's really, really important to have that base. It's vital more than anything to be able to represent yourself in a way that is going to allow them to really, really engage, but recognize that you're really looking to offer as opposed to just take. And this is servicing as well as selling, you know. That's something that I really, really think is extremely, extremely beneficial to implement. But that's kind of, you know, that's just something that I really recognised within myself when I was putting it forward, when I was reading it, and, you know, writing that out and thinking about it. It was a piece of information that I recognised, you know, I probably had not really put into place in the best possible way. and it was something that I could build on. And I hope that potentially you're able to actually do that too, and it may help you. You know, it doesn't have to be in business circumstances, it doesn't have to be in relationships, as in, you know, you and your partner. It can just be, you know, friendships. It can just be absolutely anything. Be meeting people on the street. You know, it's this recognition of wanting to be genuinely interested in people, and not even wanting to, but just embedding that within yourself, because that allows you to actually communicate in ways that are going to be authentic, but it really allows you to expand your mind as well and really go outside of that comfort zone too. And when that truly is proposed and presented, I think personally it offers a ton of advantageous results. You know, me personally, over the past week, I've really been, you know, approaching things in that manner, and it's still something that I need to really work on. It's a principle that I do need to put in place, and I really need to always have that in a place where I can recognize it so that I don't slip. But it really is a habit that can be incredibly powerful, really advantageous. So yeah, if this does offer you any kind of value, again, I do recommend that you read the book. I really recommend that, you know, you read honestly as much as you possibly can within the self-development, self-improvement kind of realms, but there are a ton of really good books out there, and personally I'm at the moment reading one book a month, and that's going to go for this year, just to allow myself to kind of have that base. And so far it's offered me tons. You know, I'm only a month in, I've already, you know, read pretty well 2 books, and it's really something that I've gained a lot from. And you know, there's no point in just reading it and not implementing. You've got to be implementing, you've got to be recognizing and interpreting it so that it's going to be really relevant to you and what it is that you do. But being able to actually put those things in place, it's incredibly powerful. So yeah, I hope this has offered you a little bit of value, and I do appreciate your time. I'll most definitely catch you on the flip side though. Farewell.